right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Sorry it had to be moved to a Monday, but we'll be back on track with Tuesdays next week. So let's go ahead and get started. All righty. So once again, we're going to start with third grade. So third grade is, first, before I go into this, some of the teachers are in different places on their lessons. I know some are finishing up a lesson or some are just starting a lesson. So that's kind of one thing to keep in mind. So you might not have gotten this letter today if they started it. I know some of them are starting it Tuesday, or some of them may have started it today. So just a heads up, if you don't see this letter coming home today, it may come home later in the week. We are a few days behind, a few days ahead. So we're all in general around the same area. But if you didn't see this letter come home today, it will be coming home soon. This is third grade, and they're starting area and perimeter of shapes. So they talk about how area right here, area tells us how much space a shape covers. The area of this shape is 8 square centimeters, and we talk about how when we find area, we multiply the length times the width. So that would give us 4 times 2, which would give us 8. And we talk about how we measure area in square units, so we have those square centimeters. And we really like to tell them, hey, let's not, we call them numbers without a unit by them. We really want to make sure we have our numbers with a unit beside them. So we talk about, hey, we have the centimeters right here. So yes, we have 8, but we have 8 centimeters squared. So that's a big thing with area and perimeter, knowing what units to put beside and saying, okay, we're in centimeters right here. So we need to make sure we're in centimeters squared when we have our answer. So of course, area tells us how much the shape covers. And then we have perimeter, and it's the total distance around a shape. So we're talking about the outside, so fences or running around something. So when we talk about perimeter, we're talking about the outside of the shape. And you find a perimeter by adding the side length. So right here, you can see the red line shows us the perimeter. We have our 4 centimeters plus 2 centimeters plus 4 centimeters plus 2 centimeters. So with perimeter, we add all of our sides. So in the end, we have 12 centimeters for the perimeter. So they're really talking about area and perimeter in this. And they're also talking about how 2 rectangles can have the same area, but a different perimeter. So right here we have a 8 by 1. And so we have the perimeter is 18 centimeters. The perimeter is 18 centimeters, but the area is 8. So talking about how, yes, it has the same area, but it could look different because it has a different perimeter. So that's what they're focusing on in third grade right now. So finding 2 rectangles may have different areas. Sorry, I said that backwards a second ago. 2 rectangles may have different areas, but the same perimeter. And hang on. Yes. So sorry. 2 rectangles can have the same area, but different perimeters, and they can also have the different areas in the same perimeter. So looking at those 2 things and how area and perimeter relate and how they change with different shapes, that's what they're digging into. There's a game on the back of the family letter. This week it's a game, and you have your area and perimeters, and you just use a dice and you draw different shapes and look at the area and the perimeter and how they change. So I have a problem for you guys. Let me go to my camera. Okay, so here's an example problem. Okay, let's focus. Hopefully that's clear for you guys. It says Claire runs along the edges of the soccer field at school. She runs around the whole field 1 time. How far does Claire run? Well, the first thing we need to think about is that she runs around the whole field. And when we talk about around a shape, we're talking about the perimeter. And when we have perimeter, we add. So the most important things we need to look at is we need to look at our side lengths. So we have 60 yards and 40 yards. So with perimeter, we have side length plus width plus length plus width. So we're going to say okay, we have perimeter, and we know we need to add 60 plus 40, because we're adding around the shape, and then 60, and then 40. And then we have our perimeter. So we have 60 plus 40, we're gonna know that's 100, and that's an easy number to get to. And 60 and 40 is 100. And then we know 100 plus 100 is 200. So we have 200 yards. So we know that the perimeter is 200 yards. So this is just an example problem, knowing that, hey, we're around the field. So we're talking about perimeter. We're not multiplying. We're not trying to find the area and multiply. We're trying to find the perimeter, and we're adding. We're around the shape. Then I have another one. So another thing that they're talking about in third grade is missing side lengths. We have a problem that says, Willis makes a pen for his rabbit. The pen has 6 sides. The perimeter is 10 meters. The lengths of 5 of the sides are 1 meter plus 3 meters plus 2 meters plus 1 meter and 1 meter. And it says, what is the length of the 6th side? So we have, one way you can solve this is you can draw a picture. And so we have a picture down here, and it shows our 1 meter, our 3 meters, our 2 meters, our 1 meter, and our 1 meter. And it's asking, what is the length of this unknown side? So what we're going to do is we know that our perimeter is 10 meters. So we know that these sides all have to add up to give us 10. So what we're going to do is we're going to say we have 1 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1 plus 1. And that's all of our sides. So we have our 1, our 3, our 2, our 1, and our 1. Plus our missing side. And we're going to call that side S. And that is all going to give us 10. So what we need to do is we need to use all these side lengths. We need to see how much we have so far, because what our leftover is going to be, that's going to be our missing side. So we have 1 plus 3 is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we know that our S has to equal something that's going to give us, when added to 8, is going to give us 10. So we can say, okay, we know we have to equal 10. We have 8. We subtract, we get 2. So we know that missing side has to be 2. And we can check our work. We can say, okay, 1 plus 3 is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And because our perimeter is 10, we know that we have answered that correctly. So missing side lengths is another thing that they do. Finding that, knowing that we have to add all these numbers to get to the 10, because it told us that it was 10 meters. Sorry, let me put my units beside it. So we knew that we had to get to 10, and then we had 8 already, and 10 minus 8 is 2, so we know our side length is 2. So they're doing those perimeter problems, those area problems, and the missing side length. In third grade, let me switch back to my PowerPoint. And then in fourth grade, tomorrow we will be starting lesson 25, and it's fractions as tenths and hundredths. So you're going to see problems such as 2 tenths plus 30 hundredths. One fraction in the problem has a denominator of 10, and the other has a denominator of 100. And just seeing how we can write those as equivalent fractions, so we can turn our tenths into hundredths, and then we can add those. So right here we have 2 tenths. But we can also split that up into hundredths and see that 2 tenths is the same thing as 20 hundredths. And then we can see how those are equivalent. So they both shade in the same amount of space. So we have our 2 tenths, and that's showing them on a model that that's the same thing as 20 hundredths. And then right down here, we can add 2 tenths and 30 hundredths, because we can make that 2 tenths into 20 hundredths and 30 tenths, and then showing, when we shade, it's a little hard to see, but when we shade the dark blue with the light blue, we get 50 hundredths. And we've already really covered adding fractions and equivalent fractions. We're just now really focusing on tenths and hundredths, because we're about to start decimals. So showing them how we can find the equivalent fractions because we know we had to have our same denominator to add, showing them how we can easily go from tenths to hundredths and then be able to add those together. So here is a game that you can do with your student for fractions of tenths and hundredths, and it has you little tenths and hundredths models for you to use as well. So let me switch back to my camera. So here is an example problem. Let me focus that. That's a little funny. Let's see. There we go. So it says every fraction with a denominator of 10 can be written as a fraction with a denominator of 100. The model to the right is divided into 10 equal parts, or what we call tenths. And so we introduced that. We have tenths. And it says how many parts are shaded. So we go over here and we say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 parts are shaded. And then it says, which would be 7 tenths. It says if you split each tenth into 10 equal parts, the whole is now divided into 100 equal parts, or what we call hundredths. So how many hundredths are shaded? And we talk about how if we had these in 10 and we split them in 10, this means that this one is 10, so 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 parts are shaded, or 70 hundredths. So then it says down here, it says complete the equation to show a fraction with a denominator of 100 that is equivalent to 7 tenths. So what we would do is we'd say, okay, we have 7 tenths, and if we want to get to 100, what do we multiply by to get to 100 if we're at 10? Well, we know that 10 times 10 is 100, and we know that whatever we do on the bottom, we have to do the same thing on top because 10 over 10 is equivalent to 1, and when we're multiplying by 1, we don't change anything. We're still equivalent. We just changed the numerator and the denominator. So 7 times 10 is 70. So we know that if we multiplied by 1, our numerator and denominator changed, but we still have the same value. So we have 7 tenths is the same thing as 70 hundredths. So showing them again, because we talked about this with equivalent fractions a couple of weeks ago, that whatever we do on the bottom, we have to do on the top because that's equivalent to 1. And so we're changing the numerator and denominator, but we're not changing the value of that. And they can really see that in this part up here because we have the same amount of shaded parts in both. They're both shaded the same amount of parts. We just broke them into different parts. We didn't change the value. We only changed how many parts we were broken up into. So showing them that with models and showing them that we can easily change our tenths to hundredths. So that's the first part. Then I have an example. So we have Carmen has 4 tenths of a dollar. Troy has 50 hundredths of a dollar. Together, what fraction of a dollar do they have? So we have two different examples here. So first, we have them changing them into a mixed number, or sorry, not a mixed number, we were doing mixed numbers earlier, into an equivalent fraction by changing the denominator of one of them, because we have 4 tenths plus 50 hundredths, and we can't do that because we don't have the same denominator. So right here, what they're doing is they're making equivalent fractions. They're saying, okay, I know that I can multiply by 10 on the bottom to get to 100. And whenever I do that on the bottom, I have to also do that on the top. So 4 times 10 is 40. So now I would have 40 hundredths, which is the same thing as 4 tenths. So I'm not changing the problem. I'm just making an equivalent fraction. And I can now add those 50 hundredths. And then 40 plus 50 is going to give us 90. And then our denominator does not change because we didn't change the pieces. We just added the pieces together. So we have 90 hundredths. And so they just did their equivalent fractions so that they could add these two together. Well, right here, what we did is we started out with a model, and they modeled the 4 tenths and they modeled the 50 hundredths, and they knew that if they put these 4 right here, they could split this into hundredths. So when they shaded this part, 1, 2, 3, 4, this is the same thing as this, we're just split into hundreds. So they still found equivalent fractions, They just did it in a model. So they knew that these 4 strips right here were equivalent to these 4 strips. And then so this was the 40 hundredths. And then they knew they had the 50 hundredths. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right here. So they knew that the 40 hundredths plus the 50 hundredths were the 90 hundredths. So again, just changing those tenths to hundredths and then adding those together. And then I have one more problem. It says Doss rides his bike home. He has 7/10 of a mile left to ride. Write an equivalent fraction to show how far Doss has left to ride in hundredths of a mile. So we know that he has 7/10 of a mile left to ride, and we want to change that into hundredths. And we know we can make an equivalent fraction. So we have to figure out 10 times what is 100. So we have 10 times 10. And whatever we do to the bottom, we have to do to the top to make that equivalent. So then we see 7 times 10 is 70. So he has 70 hundredths of a mile left to ride. So that's how we would do it with an equivalent fraction. And the same thing down here, we have our 7/10, and they just split it this way to make it into hundredths. So seeing that this is the same shaded area as this, they are equivalent fractions. We just wanted it in hundredths. So there are 10 hundredths and 1/10. Sorry, there are 10 hundredths and 1/10. 7/10 is the same thing as 70 hundredths. So Doss has 70 hundredths of a mile left to ride. So we're really going from tenths to hundredths, and we're adding those together, but still using equivalent fractions to say, hey, we can easily turn 7/10 into hundredths. We just have to either use our model, or we can multiply by that 10 over 10. So that's what we're doing in 4th grade. And we should be starting that tomorrow. And then back to my slideshow. So in 5th grade, what they're doing is they are exploring multiplication as scaling. And they talk about scaling as resizing a quantity through multiplication. You can think of scaling as stretching or shrinking, and they use those words. Excuse me. So they say, like, look at the length of the bar, it has a length of 4 units. Well, if we multiply by the length by 2, then we're doubling the length of the bar, we're stretching it. If we multiply the original length, this 4, by a half, we're going to shrink the bar. So they're talking about, stretching and shrinking based on what we multiplied by. And then there's an activity, multiplication as scaling, about pencils. And again, the answer key should be on the bottom. So I have an example problem. Let me pull that up. Sorry again for all the switching back and forth. I've tried to find a better way, but it's just so much easier to put it up on the screen. So it says changing the size of quantity by multiplication is called scaling. Stretching and shrinking are 2 different ways to scale a quantity. So we see that the bar right here has a length of 6 units. And it says circle the bar that shows the length of 6 units being doubled or stretched. So when we double it, we stretch it. Underline the bar that shows the length of 6 units being halved or shrunk. So we're shrinking. So then it says, so we're going to look at the one is doubled. Well, this one is longer. We stretched it. So this one would be circled because it's doubled. And then it said to underline the one that shrank, and that one got smaller. Then it says, part B, write a multiplication equation for each bar. Circle the factor that describes how the length of 6 units has been stretched or shrunk. So if we look right here, we have our original one was 6 units. So we have 6. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And we know up here we doubled it. So when we double, we multiplied by 2, and we got 12 units. So we stretched it. So we stretched that. And then right here, we have 3 units, and our original one was 6 units. So we basically cut it in half. So we're doing 6 times 1/2, and that was shrink. oops, we got 3. So we stretched the one that we doubled and we shrank the one that we halved, and just saying, okay, we have a whole number that we're multiplying by. So our it got bigger. And then if we multiplied by a fraction, it shrank. So really just stretch and shrink is what we're talking about, and seeing how what we multiply by will either stretch it or it will shrink it. So that's what they're talking about in 5th grade this week. Back to, first of all, does anyone have any questions? All right, I'm going to show you one more thing. So our game of the week this week is Race the Cheese. This is another one of our multiplication games. And what you need for this one is you need 2 counters and 1 dice. And basically you want to be the first one to the cheese. So what you're going to do is you're going to pick a number 1 through 10, and then you're going to roll the dice. You're going to multiply the dice together, and then you're going to move to that place on the board. So if you picked, let's say 6 as your number and you rolled a 1, you would do 6 times 1 is 6. So you're going to put your marker on this one. So then the next player rolls, and they multiply and roll. And the objective is to get all the way to the cheese. If you if the product is not found, then you just remain where you are and you go to the next turn. So if you multiply something and it wasn't on the board, you would just skip your turn and go to the next one. So that's Race the Cheese, and it's another one of our games that we have. And speaking of games, let me go to, let's see, there we go. So back to our dojo. So just a reminder, if you go to dojo and you click on the parent newsletter, Ms. Wilson posts these every weekend. If you will click on the link, just a reminder, this has all our important dates and information and all the fun things. For this week, I want to hit on a few things. So it is Read Across America Week, if you do not already know. So we have some dress up days that we're doing. Monday, today was Cat in the Hat Day. Tuesday is Fox and Socks, Wear Wacky Socks. Wednesday is Class Picture Day, but it's also Wear Wacky Clothes Day. You can wear wacky clothes if you would like. We are going to take class pictures that day, though. Thursday is My Mini Color Day, so you're going to wear as many colors as possible. And then Friday is Sleep Book Day, the favorite day. It's Pajama Day. So those are this week for our dress up days this week for Read Across America. But if you will go to the parent help sessions, just a reminder, we do post, like this week we had to move it to Monday. Whatever day it will be, it should be back to normal at Tuesdays next week. But if you check this, it will tell you exactly what day it will be. And then once again, if you missed one and you would like to see it, you can click right here. And it will bring up our help session s'more. And what this is it has all of the recordings of all of the previous WebEx sessions. It also has a place where you can give us suggestions of things you would like to see or ask us questions if you need to. Then we have our websites. And we also have some apps for our phones. So once again, this is if you go to the parent letter and click right, or the family letter, the family newsletter, so sorry, and you click right here, it will take you to that. And then lastly, one more thing I want to go over again, if you will go to right here, the digital parenting room, once again, if you click right here, this will bring up all our resources we have for our parenting room at the school. And if you see something, if you scroll through and see something you would like to have at home, what you can do is you can click right here. It says, please click this link. You will fill out this form with your email, your student's name, their teacher, and then you'll just select whatever you would like to have sent home to you. And then at the end, you'll click submit. And then when you submit that, it sends it to us and we can get those resources sent home to you. We will be adding all the games, including the Race to the Cheese game I talked about today, so that you guys can get those at home. So if you like the Race to the Cheese, it should be added hopefully by this Friday, so that we can send you the dice, we can send you the counters, so you can play that game at home. And if you want to see the rules of the other games, because I think I've talked about, 6 games now, 6 multiplication games, then you can watch the previous WebEx meetings, or there's instructions on each game board. So those are a really good way of practicing that multiplication at home, so that we really get that down, so that we can use those in the classroom. But once again, you will go to the digital parenting room, click right here, the link will pull up, and you just fill that out. It'll be sent to us, and we'll send those resources home to you, and you can get whatever resources we have on there, whichever ones you would like. We do have some great flashcards, and there's also some whiteboards down here that you can get, and there's also some reading stuff. I'm a math teacher. I know there's reading stuff on there. I'm not exactly sure what all there is, but I know there's some really good reading stuff. I thought these cubes were really cool about comprehension. But there is some good math and reading, and also some parenting things that you can get from our parenting room. So please, please, please feel free to use that resource. It's a great resource, and we would love to send things home to you. So that again is on the Dojo newsletter. If you need resources, it will take you to our parenting room. So real quick, does anyone have any questions? And if not, Ms. Holmes is going to share us some tech tips for the week.
Thank you, Paula. Let me share my screen. Paula, can you guys see that? Okay. I'm going to go through this presentation first, and then we're going to go to the website and look around just a little bit. This is Common Sense Media for Parents. This is a website that has some great resources. So what is Common Sense Media? It is a trusted guide for a fast-changing world. Media and technology are at your center of your kids' everyday lives. From a very young age, kids use technology at home and at school to connect with friends and family, and to document their lives and create digital content of their own. With more and more of life happening online, what catches kids' attention isn't always what's best for them, and what companies do with their personal information isn't always clear. So how is Common Sense Media used in Jefferson County? Teaching digital citizenship is all about helping kids think beyond themselves and recognize the ripple effects of their actions. Personal responsibility is important, but understanding their responsibilities to others can help kids unlock new ways to learn and connect with their communities, and even change those communities for the better. We want them using these tools responsibly, and so that's part of what this website helps teachers and parents do. I'm not sure if you're aware of the SIPA Act, or Children's Internet Protection Act. SIPA imposes certain requirements on schools and libraries that receive discounts for internet access or internal connections through E-rate program, a program that makes certain communication services and products more affordable for eligible schools and libraries. So we are a part of this. So how do we access this wonderful website that I keep mentioning? We go to commonsensemedia.org, and we're going to choose the parent tab in just 1 second. Okay. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to do that fast. So what does Common Sense Media offer? There are reviews on age-appropriate viewing of the following. So like streaming services, movies, games, books, TVs, YouTube, podcasts, apps, even platforms. So your kid's talking about a video game and you don't know, is that really an age-appropriate game? So this is where that kind of thing is good. This website's going to help you with that kind of thing. I'm going to come back now. I'm going to leave this excuse me, I'm going to leave that presentation, and I'm actually going to go, let's see, we'll do this, but I should have, hang on 1 second. Okay, there we go. I've got too many things going around. Give me 1 second. I need my X to come back up. Come on. Well, I appreciate your patience. Just 1 second. There we go. It wouldn't, I pushed escape before and it wouldn't go. So you would go to your browser and type in Common Sense Media.org. And if you forget the exact web address, you can Google it and get close enough and you will find it. So when it opens up, it is in the parent, already in the parents tab. There's a section for educators, and then they want to tell you how they're helping, other ways that they're impacting the world. The screen that you come up to have these tabs across the top with the different media that are available to review. And also there's different ways down here. You can scan and see if there's one that you want to just click on. For example, Dune, you know, is a popular movie that has just come out. A quick look tells you that in their opinion, it's age 13 or over. It gives it 4 out of 5 stars. And you can click here and look at the full review, or you can also watch a video review. Now, for example, sometimes, you know, obviously parents and families have different guidelines of what they allow their children to watch and participate in. This is what I find is so valuable about Common Sense Media, is they tell you what it is. They don't just say it's 4 out of 5 stars. So that could be that, hey, it's a great story, but they're, you know, using horrible language and you don't want your student to hear that. So here's the details, the nitty gritty. So positive messages. So it gets 2 out of 5 for that. The movie questions the reasons, and you can read more specifically to that particular point. They look at diverse representations. They look at sex, romance, and nudity, positive role models, violence and scariness, language, drinking, drugs, and smoking. And also here, sometimes they'll tell you if there's products or purchases that can be made, if it's like a video game, especially like within the game. Parents need to know. So you can click on that and it gives you a full paragraph of it even gives like specific things that the bad words that were used. So this is very, very helpful because things are coming so fast and it's hard to know as a parent what's the right thing to do. So let's go look at games, for example. So you can put in your kid's age here if you want to. You can scan for a game if you would rather. Okay, say, hey, my kid loves Superman. They always want to talk about, you know, and Superman's great, but is this particular game appropriate for your student? Now, here you see that you get a certain amount of free reviews. I have never had this come up before, and it may be because I'm not signed in, okay? So if you go in and create an account, it's free. It's a free account, and to my knowledge, after that, you still get lots of good things on here. One other thing I wanted to show you that a parent had told me about. Her child's younger than mine. I'm thinking real quick. So games. It was under parent tips and facts, but it's not showing up now because I think I clicked on. Let me reload the home page and see if it'll come up there. Okay, so right here. So by platform. So her student is younger and he loves Roblox and he's trying to talk her into letting him use the chat feature. Okay, so here's a article video, and then you can also get more specific, and it talks about, is there chat on Roblox and is it safe? And so she clicked on that and it takes her right to that. It's working on it, I think. Maybe not. Okay. Is the chat on Roblox safe? So there's some very good information on these pages. Now you might ask, who's reviewing these? Those are parent reviews. Those are parent reviews. Now, sure, some savvy 14-year-old could go in there and try to skew the reviews, but you know, you can read it and have some sense about what's written and use your good parental judgment with that. So just know that commonsensemedia.org is there. And I think you'll have more options after you create a free account. And it is very, I loved it as a teacher as well, because when I would go to buy library books for the library, I would go in and read what, not just what the publisher says, because of course they're going to say it's great, but then I could read what other parents thought about it. And so this is a great resource. So I hope you take advantage of it. And it covers, you saw how many things it covered, not just games, but it did have a book feature. It had apps and podcasts. Because, you know, if you hear podcasts, I think, oh, that's educational. Well, some of them not so much. And so you would want to read that and see if you could find some information on something that interests your child. So are there any questions about Common Sense Media?
No.
I believe someone said something, but I didn't hear I didn't hear a question.
No, ma'am, I don't have any questions. Can you hear me?
I do hear you.
Okay.
Thank you. Or a comment, if you have a comment for that matter. Anything that I can help you with. Remember, my email address is my full name. I will put it back in the chat, so that after you get to looking at it, you have a question or something like that, you can email me with that question. Thank you. I appreciate you guys letting me join your parenting session.
Thank you so much. That was really cool. I didn't know about that. That was a really good resource to have. So thank you so much for joining us again, giving us a tech tip. We really appreciate it. And thank you to everyone for joining again today. Does anyone have any kind of questions, whether it be about the technology, any technology questions, or any math questions, or any questions about Parenting Room, Dojo, or anything? If not, we really appreciate you guys coming again this week. Thank you so much. And if you don't have a question, you are welcome to go, and we will see you again next week.
Thank you, Paula.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good
Thank
rest
you.
of your day.